So I recently released a video talking about the drama between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, and in my title I had said a therapist take. And fair enough, there were some comments talking about how they were waiting for a therapist take on the situation, when really I was just sharing what was going on in regards to the drama. There were some pieces where I gave my input, but today I want to do a video where I literally give a professional therapist take on specifically Blake Lively today. Now, this is obviously purely based on outside perception. I have no relationship to Blake Lively. I do not know her personally. I will not pretend to know her personally. I will say though, I am fascinated at what's going on in the public eye in regards to Blake Lively. And I will say that I feel like I have seen this pattern of behavior since about 2007, since Gossip Girl days. And I feel like people are now just becoming aware or just catching up. So today I'm going to be talking about Blake Lively, a true therapist take. Let's dive on in. So Blake Lively was born August 25th, 1987. She's about 37 years old right now. She was born to Ernie and Elaine Lively. Now, something to note about Blake Lively that I do think plays a big part into maybe why people have a problem with her or why she maybe struggles a little bit is she is a Nepo baby, meaning her parents were both in the industry before she came along. Not only her parents, but also all of her siblings. So her parents, Ernie and Elaine was a talent manager, talent scout, and her dad was actually an actor and a director. Now, fun fact, in Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, which is Blake Lively's first breakout role, her dad, her real dad, actually plays her dad in the movie. So Blake Lively comes from literally a family filled with people in the industry. She grew up in Burbank, California, and as I mentioned, she is the youngest of 5. Now, her siblings were all in some sort of movies or TV shows. I think for me, I didn't know any of them outside of Blake Lively and Robin Lively. Now, Robin Lively is about, I think, 16 years older than Blake Lively. And it seems like maybe they're the closest, obviously outside looking in. And Robin Lively was really known, I think, in the 80s, maybe 90s in her Teen Witch days. But fun fact for us millennials, Robin Lively is actually married to Bart Johnson, who plays the iconic Coach Bolton in the High School Musical series. So there is a lot happening within the family in regards to them being in the industry. Now, based on research I did, it says that Blake Lively is super close with her siblings. There is a significant age gap, especially between the oldest and Blake Lively. I'm the oldest of 6, and so I know for me personally, my youngest brother, who I'm 35, my youngest brother's 21. He grew up in a very different household. I would say the youngest 3 grew up in a very different household than the oldest 3 did, which is completely natural, completely normal. Again, with Blake Lively, I think it plays a big part in what we're seeing even today, though. In some interviews I was able to see and some research I was able to find, it talked about how Blake Lively was always involved in the arts in some capacity, especially when it came to high school. I think she was in show choir, and there was this rumor where people thought her dad bought her a spot in show choir or Glee, which I don't think you can really do. Maybe in California you can, I don't know. But that was a rumor because she has very much admitted that she cannot sing, and show choir, you're singing. So I don't know what she was doing. I don't know if she was lip singing. I don't know if she just got acting parts. I genuinely don't know. But she talks about how she just always loved being on the stage and honestly, the center of attention. Now, jumping to her kind of career and some highlights of her career. Like I mentioned, Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants was probably her first big breakout role, and that came out in 2005, and she was actually still in school at the time. So she did the first film, went back to school, and graduated. But that also stars America Ferrera, Alexis Bledel, Amber Tamblyn, and then Blake Lively. And the cool thing, I do think actually, is that they're all seemingly pretty close, or they were, up until really recently, if not still to this day. Then her next big role, well, kind of big role, I don't know if you guys have even seen it. It's a movie called Accepted. I remember watching it. This is when I feel like I was introduced to Jonah Hill. And Justin Long, I believe, is in this movie as well, but she plays the hot girl. And oddly enough, recently, one of those old interviews promoting this movie came out where she's talking about how she was a nerd, and she's stunning. Like, there's no denying she's beautiful. And so she's like talking about how she was a nerd and all this stuff, and how her and her friend were trying to like stalk this one guy that she liked. And they put so much tanning product on them that they looked like they were black girls, which is not great. Not great at all. So that's that movie, if you've seen that interview floating around the internet. Anyway, that was the next like bigger role. And then I would say probably her most iconic role outside the Sisterhood franchise, because there are 2 movies in the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants franchise, was Gossip Girl. Now, I grew up on Gossip Girl. I genuinely liked Gossip Girl, which is crazy because I've watched it as an adult. And I'm like, this show is actually insane. It's insane. Like, these 16-year-olds are drinking champagne and martinis like they're 25, and it's absolutely crazy. Anyway, Blake Lively gets hired on or casted as the iconic Serena van der Woodsen. Me personally, I was never a Serena van der Woodsen fan. I was always Team Blair. And to this day, I'm so thankful I was always Team Blair. Even rewatching it, I'm like, Serena van der Woodsen is a horrible friend. Horrible. And I will die on that hill. Anyway, she's cast along Leighton Meester, Penn Badgley, Chase Crawford, a couple other people. And back then, the media seemingly favored Serena van der Woodsen, Blake Lively, because she came off as this extroverted, bubbly, lively, no pun intended, teenager or a young adult that people were like, oh, she's beautiful and she's fun and she's energetic, and there's just something about her energy that we all love. When that was being portrayed, the other side of that was there was this kind of like shadow in regards to Leighton Meester and how she was portrayed. So Leighton Meester, who plays the iconic Blair Waldorf, came off a lot more reserved or timid or quiet, or kind of gave like the mean girl energy in real life. Now, I had always thought that Leighton Meester was just maybe more reserved, and I think she knew stuff about Blake Lively that we didn't know, so that's why it seemed to create a disconnect. But I share all that to say, back in the days of Gossip Girl, there was a lot of rumors that were coming out of discourse or tension between Blake Lively and Leighton Meester in real life. On the show, there's a lot of tension, but in real life, it was shared that they did not get along at all. And it was believed that Leighton Meester was the cause of that, or Leighton Meester was just a mean girl, or Leighton Meester was just kind of snobby, and, you know, Blake Lively is this wonderful, bubbly personality that we all love. Another thing to note about her Gossip Girl days is she and Penn Badgley, who plays Dan in the show, they actually dated on and off for quite a bit. I think there's a couple actors on that show maybe she was in a relationship with, but like her person was Penn Badgley, and they dated on and off for quite a bit. It seemed like Gossip Girl really launched the career of Blake Lively. She ended up getting big roles in movies like The Town, Green Lantern, The Shallows, The Age of Adeline, so on and so forth. And it seemed like Blake Lively, out of the whole cast of Gossip Girl, was becoming the it girl. She was on red carpets. She was known as like a style icon, and people really started paying attention to Blake Lively, and she became pretty big from, I think, for me at least, she became pretty big in Hollywood standards. Now, there was a couple of rumors, like I mentioned, her and Penn Badgley were kind of on and off for a while, but they were pretty serious when they were together. But on the off seasons of them not being together, she was rumored to be hanging out with people like Leonardo DiCaprio. So again, Leonardo DiCaprio is a big A-lister. I think she kind of always found herself around A-listers whenever possible. And that's a perfect example of that scenario. Now, as I mentioned, she was cast as the main female role in the movie Green Lantern. At the time she was casted, correct me if I'm wrong, but her and Penn Badgley, I believe, were actually still in a relationship. And then obviously Ryan Reynolds is cast as Green Lantern. It is one of the worst movies I have ever seen. I don't know what happened. I don't know who directed it, what took place. It is horrible. And I've only seen it one time, but I can remember how bad it is. Anyway, it doesn't do that well in the box office, and the majority agree it's not a great movie. However, it is very clear and evident, whether it's people on set or, you know, them doing press tour and all that stuff together, it is very evident that there's a lot of palpable chemistry between Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. I believe Blake Lively's in her early 20s when this is all taking place, and he's in his 30s at this time, and married, by the way. At this time of Green Lantern, Ryan Reynolds and Scarlett Johansson are actually married. And it's believed, it is alleged, it is rumored that during the set and filming of Green Lantern, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds were actually together, hooking up. And so the whole thought is it's alleged that Ryan Reynolds was having an affair with Blake Lively when he was married to Scarlett Johansson. Green Lantern comes out, I think around like 2010, 2011, and like I said, does not do well. Ryan Reynolds and Scarlett Johansson end up getting divorced. Penn Badgley and Blake Lively end up quitting forever. And then Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively officially become the Hollywood it couple. In 2012, they actually end up getting married in a very controversial place. They get married on a plantation in South Carolina, and it's something that has really come back and bit them in the butts now. But even back then, people were like, that's a little problematic. Two white people getting married on a plantation. But they seemingly kind of like were able to get through that and get over that pretty quickly in regards to scandal. And people seemingly forgot, and all of a sudden they were the it couple. Now, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds do have 4 kids. They have 3 girls and 1 boy, I believe. Another thing to note about Blake Lively, just to kind of give a full picture, is Blake Lively is also famously known for being friends with Taylor Swift. Obviously, Taylor Swift right now is probably the most well-known pop star in the world. She just finished up her Eras tour, which I think massed over $1 billion. Okay, sorry. Had to change the angle of my camera so I can plug it in so I can keep talking. But yes, so much so where Taylor and Blake were seen everywhere together. They were seen doing dinners out in New York City, across the country. Even last year during the Super Bowl, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, they were all 3 seen in the Taylor Swift suite at the Super Bowl. So when I say that these two were very close, these two were very close. Now, it's alleged, it is believed, it is rumored that there might be some cracks in that friendship, and we'll get to the reason why. So that is a roundabout picture of Blake Lively. That's maybe, to me, what you need to know in regards to this video, in regards to Blake Lively. Now, again, before I go into the therapist take, my professional take, I want to make it very clear. I do not know Blake Lively. I will not pretend to know Blake Lively. This is solely based on the outside looking in. This is solely based on interviews I've read, research I've done. Everything is based on perception, not necessarily reality. So I want to make sure I'm very clear on that. So I did a whole video talking about the breakdown of Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, the lawsuit, the really messy, sticky situation that's taken place in regards to the movie It Ends With Us. And I talked about how on the press tour, there was a lot of Blake Lively talking about bring your florals and your girlfriends and all that stuff. And it really rubbed people the wrong way because the movie deals with domestic violence. And it seemed like she was not addressing the issue or addressing the core issue of the movie. And so people were really upset about that. Now, as I've been rewatching some of these interviews, as I've been going back and watching some things, it's reminded me of 2 possible things that could be going on. And again, I've had these thoughts since 2007. I think everything has just been exaggerated so much so because of the intensity of the It Ends With Us drama. But I've had these thoughts from early on when watching Blake Lively on red carpets or watching her in interviews and things like that. When I was doing research on her, as I mentioned, I found out that she was the youngest of 5 kids. And not only that, everyone is in this industry. One of the first things that I thought of in regards to the professional viewpoint of Blake Lively was what's commonly known as the youngest child syndrome. Now, it's important to note that the youngest child syndrome is not like a real diagnosable thing. It is just a discussion among psychologists, psychiatrists, therapists when it comes to family dynamics, because there are some certain things that the youngest child will show or they have a tendency to do that is not necessarily in the other children. Now, again, I want to clarify, Me describing youngest child syndrome does not mean every youngest child has this. There are some scenarios where somebody may be the youngest, but their mentality is an only child, or somebody may be the youngest, but they feel their responsibility is the oldest child. So this is not everybody's situation or scenario. I am specifically speaking to what I see in regards to Blake Lively and what she has shown us, the public. One of the main characteristics of the youngest child syndrome is attention seeking. There might be a feeling within the youngest child that they have to work extra hard to get the attention of the parents or siblings or whoever else is in their family. They often like to be the center of attention and get the acknowledgement that they're seen, that they're heard, that they're appreciated. And so when it comes to being the youngest child, oftentimes attention-seeking behavior tends to take root or take place. And I think when we, especially with this latest press tour of It Ends With Us, there's a lot of behavior or interviews that Blake Lively does where it seems like she just wants the attention, where she wants to be the smartest person in the room, where she wants to be sometimes the only person in the room, or she wants people to know just how much she did, just how much she was involved, just how great she is. And that is a very common sign of the youngest child syndrome. Another very common symptom of the youngest child syndrome is they're often manipulative. Now, they can use charm or certain aspects of their youth or their status in life to get what they want from the people that they need from. And again, outside looking in, based on latest conversations and interviews that we're seeing of Blake Lively, there are moments where we're like, oh, there seemed to be a lot of manipulation and use of power. Again, as I mentioned before, for some reason, Blake Lively has had a way of being able to be in the circles of A-listers. And I think that's because she knows the power that they have. Again, she's grown up in the industry. When she was dating Leonardo DiCaprio, literally an A-list actor. And at that time, I don't think she was much except for Serena van der Woodsen. Now she's best friends with Taylor Swift, who, again, the most iconic, well-known pop star in the whole world, friends with Gigi Hadid, one of the most iconic supermodels. Like, she puts herself in circles and places where she's always going to have these great connections. And it seemed like, especially for this movie, she would use those very powerful connections where she would manipulate certain situations to be the outcome that she wanted, whether it was the wardrobe situation where she kind of kicked the wardrobe person out and she was able to somehow spend way too much money to do the wardrobe that she wanted, or borrow a wardrobe from Gigi Hadid. I would say the biggest example of this is when she name drops Taylor Swift in the alleged text messages, or when she's talking about how it was Taylor Swift that picked the younger version of Lily Bloom, all that stuff. So she knows the power and weight that Taylor Swift holds. She also knows the power and weight that her husband Ryan Reynolds holds in Hollywood as well. And so it seems like, outside looking in, there's a tendency to manipulate certain things to get the outcome that she wants, which again is a major symptom of the youngest child syndrome. Along with manipulation, another big sign is spoiled. They are often spoiled, so they end up getting what they want. I think, again, with this latest press tour, and this again could have happened before, but we're just seeing it so much now because of the publicity of these lawsuits and everything that's taking place. But it seems like, according to Justin Baldoni's lawsuits and text messages and evidence, that Blake Lively was able to get a lot of what she wanted. One of the most interesting and telling interviews or moments that stick out to me, there was like a big book fair. I can't think of the word. It's almost like Comic-Con, but it's for books. And it's in Texas. And at first it was supposed to be Justin Baldoni and Colleen Hoover that went to this book fair to promote It Ends With Us and the movie that's coming out. And then somehow Justin Baldoni gets kicked out, and it's Blake Lively and Brendan Sklenar, I think is his name, who plays Atlas in the movie, and Colleen Hoover. And Blake Lively's talking and doing what she does, and she talks about how she grabbed a copy, her version of It Ends With Us, and somehow was able to play it when she wasn't supposed to get the copy shared that much or anything like that. And it was another example of how she got her way. She got to go to the book fair. That's probably the wrong word. She got to go to this book extravaganza. She got to create connections with Colleen Hoover. She got to take the edited take the unedited version of the movie and show it without any kind of consequence at that time. She got to go to the premiere of the movie and get Justin Baldoni in the basement. Apparently, allegedly, she got to do all these things and seemed like at the time there were no consequences. So that is definitely a version of being spoiled and definitely a sign of the youngest child syndrome. Another sign, and I've seen this a lot, another sign of the youngest child syndrome is challenging rules. Oftentimes, and again, because it's a bigger family, the more kids that a couple has, the more depleted mentally and emotionally they just are, and physically, just because, you know, you grow with age, you're going to get more tired, or you're just going to kind of give up, or you're going to learn you don't need to die on every hill. And I think for Blake Lively, that was kind of the case maybe growing up, where she probably got a lot of what she wanted, or she was able to challenge the rules when it came to her. And again, specifically with what's happening with the It Ends With Us press and backlash and things that are coming out now, it seemed like she was able to challenge wardrobe and she got what she wanted. She was able to challenge editing. She got what she wanted. She was able to challenge writing scripts or writing scenes or writing this. She got what she wanted. She was able to challenge certain things, allegedly, and she allegedly got what she wanted. And again, that's a huge sign of youngest child syndrome. Last but not least, and again, there are a couple more signs, but this is the last sign I want to talk about, is the idea of being persistent. Consistent act of asking for something, so much so where you just wear the person down. I do want to clarify, it is great to be persistent in something that you are passionate about, but at the expense of others, not so great. And it seemed like with this movie, again, she was persistent no matter no matter what it cost to those around her. And I think that is where it can become dangerous or unhealthy. And it seemed like, again, whether it was throughout the different interviews or the text messages that were leaked or whatnot, it seemed like she was persistent until she got her way. So all of these, in my mind, are a common theme is a lot of like selfish motive, a lot of self-centeredness, a lot of me. And it seems like outside looking in, that's Blake Lively, especially with this latest press tour, with the whole It Ends With Us drama and debacle that's taking place. Again, I've always gotten that vibe since like 2007. I didn't know it was youngest child syndrome at that time, but I always felt a disconnect to her because I always felt like she would put it on so thick to where she would maybe cover it up and others would be deceived of like, oh, she's just awesome and just the best. When in reality, I'm like, no, I think she struggles with a lot of like selfish intent and motive to a really unhealthy degree. And I think to me, what that speaks to, again, professionally, is a struggle with insecurity. I'm a firm believer that the loudest person in any room is going to be the most insecure person in the room. I guess what I mean is the more you have to prove yourself, the more you have to verbally say how great you are, the more you verbally have to acknowledge the circles of friends that you have, the more you have to like verbally continue to build yourself up. That's typically a sign that there's an insecurity or there's a disconnect to your inner self to where you feel like I have to prove my worth. I have to prove to everyone else because I don't think I'm good enough. I need everybody else to think that I'm good enough. And again, most people deal with some sort of insecurity, right? I think, especially as females, and I say that because I work with females in my office, that's the common thing that I see is there's a disconnect with their inner self. And I think the idea of confidence versus the reality of what confidence is are two very different things. Someone can seem confident, someone can portray confidence, but actually not be confident. And I think with Blake Lively, there's a disconnect because there might be some insecurity of, yes, I'm Blake Lively, but I'm also not getting Oscars. Yes, I'm Blake Lively, but I'm not taken seriously in certain scenarios. There's a couple of text messages or moments that Justin Baldoni has shared where she talks to him and says, I don't feel like people take me seriously. I don't feel like people like believe me. And so I think there's an insecurity, and sometimes insecurity will lead us to have to prove ourselves to the degree of hurting other people though. The last thing I want to share with you guys that could possibly be going on, because this is something I've been seeing float around TikTok a lot, and honestly, it could be a very real possibility. It's the concept of histrionic personality disorder. Now, I want to share what this is, and you guys can make your own decision or make your own conclusion of if this is something that Blake Lively could be navigating. Again, I'm not her therapist. I'm not her psychiatrist, any of that. This is purely outside looking in, sharing information that could possibly be a reason of why we're seeing what we're seeing in the public eye. So, histrionic personality disorder is defined as the following: a consistent pattern of persuasive, attention-seeking behaviors and exaggerated emotional displays. This condition typically emerges in late adolescence or early adulthood. Individuals with HPD are often described as narcissistic, self-indulgent, flirtatious, dramatic, and extroverted. They may feel undervalued when not in the spotlight, leading to a persistent need of validation. Now, you can read that and listen to that and think of multiple times that you've noticed certain traits displayed in Blake Lively. I think one of the biggest things when I read that description that I think of is dramatic, extroverted, flirtatious, and may feel undervalued. And again, obviously this is all outside looking in. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being flirtatious or being dramatic or feeling undervalued. Those things alone, nothing wrong with that. I think to the degree that we're seeing it though, could be an indication something might be going on in regards to Blake Lively. One of the most frustrating things I think for me when I watched Blake Lively, even again back in 2007, but especially now with the It Ends With Us drama, watching a lot of the interviews back, she overtalks. It's like if a professor is telling you to write a 100-word essay, but you only have 10 words, and you just make up 90 words just to fulfill the requirement. It almost sounds like that's what Blake Lively does when she's talking. And I don't think she's dumb at all, actually. I think she's very intelligent, very smart. I think, though, what happens is she feels like she has to fill in space when it's not required, or she feels like she has to over-explain instead of just like flat out be honest, or the black and white thing. And sometimes that can be a sign of dramatics. Sometimes that can be a sign of feeling insecure and undervalued. I don't know what is driving that, but a lot of her interviews, if you go back and listen, it's a lot of her talking and you're like, wait, I'm sorry, you didn't even answer the question. Or it's a lot of, I'm sorry, wait, what was the original question? Or why did you share all that? That had nothing to do with the question. And so it can feel frustrating watching someone like her answer or do interviews because it seems like she's not addressing the question, or she is over talking it, or she's just not being honest, and she's just making up all this fluff when we just want the real stuff. I think the other thing that sticks out to me when I read the HPD definition is the constant need for validation. And again, this is alleged, this is rumored, but based on text messages that Justin Baldoni has released, based on information that's been released from his team, it seems like she has needed a lot of validation. She has needed, I need you to tell me that I'm good enough. I need you to tell me that, my outfits are good. I think what has spiraled so out of control is this narrative that Justin Baldoni's team created this hate, smear campaign due to her outfits. When in reality, people were upset with her outfits, which seems small, but it's a big deal in this scenario. They were upset with her outfits for Lily Bloom because it was a clear indication she didn't read the book or she didn't connect to the character Lily Bloom. She's wearing these thousands of dollars, I can't even tell you how much because I don't even know, Louis Vuitton boots, when it's like Lily Bloom, the character, is a flower shop owner who comes from a really tough background of an abusive father and trying to figure out her life and all this stuff. And so it seemed disconnected. So Blake Lively, I'm assuming, felt invalidated in what she took pride in, which was picking out the outfits, which is creating the outfits, which was creating this aesthetic of Lily Bloom. And people did not respond or react well to that. So she took it as a personal attack, but instead of maybe doing some inner work and saying, okay, I haven't connected with their version of Lily Bloom, she kind of put it on other people, especially people like Justin Baldoni. Because again, at this point, Justin Baldoni, I don't know if he's even a B. I don't know. Like, he's been in Jane the Virgin. I think that's what he's really well known for. But he's kind of newer when it comes to the directing and bigger roles, like It Ends With Us. And so she kind of put it on him because she knew she had the star power behind her. So I think all that to say, when I read histrionic personality disorder, I could see the qualifications fitting for what we're seeing in regards to Blake Lively. I think another thing that has been misconstrued over the years, and now people are realizing was misconstrued, she was always known for some reason as like the crown fixer. Basically, the idea was she will always make somebody look better on the red carpet, or she will always like fix, you know, the girls' dresses or whatnot. For me, personally, not saying it's real, my perception is it's a control thing versus let me help a girl out thing. I think she likes the idea of knowing she did it. The idea that I can take credit for fixing that. I can take credit for creating this. I can take credit for fill in the blank. The girl who plays young Lily, her name's Isabella. Beautiful. And I just feel bad because I don't know if she's going to get much after this. Anyway, she told the interviewers, like, Blake Lively dressed me from head to toe. And it's, to me, it's like, is that Isabella style or is that Blake Lively? Because it's literally Blake Lively with the bracelets all the way up to here and the floral dress. I mean, she didn't look bad, but also I think the idea of validating Blake Lively is a big issue when it comes to me in regards to Blake Lively. And that would really fall under the category of histrionic personality disorder. I hope in the midst of all of this, whatever's going on, whatever's happening in her mind and her heart and her family and whatever, that she's seriously going to therapy. I can't imagine going through with what she's going through, even though it started with her allegations. I totally get that 100%. I don't think she thought this was going to be the result at all. And that will mess with you mentally and emotionally. I think she thought she was going to be able to make the claim, pay it off, or have Justin Baldoni fold and be done and move forward, and she can get the rights to Colleen Hoover's next book, whatever the case may be. And it just didn't go like that because Justin Baldoni, rightfully so, was like, no, we're going to fight this. I mean, you're not going to disparage my name. I just don't think she saw it going like this. And I would imagine mentally and emotionally, she's just not good. It's also rumored right now that her friends, aka Taylor Swift, is kind of distancing herself as well because, again, some of the alleged text messages to Justin Baldoni was like, you know, I'm Khaleesi and Ryan and Taylor are my dragons, basically. Which I guess is a Game of Thrones reference. Never watched it. Don't care to. But kind of talking about how Taylor's in her pocket. And again, Taylor's obviously a very well-known name. And so allegedly, there's some rumors where Taylor Swift is starting to realize, wait, you keep using my name or using my status to get what you want. I mean, no friend wants to feel manipulated or used. And I'm not saying Taylor Swift's innocent. I genuinely don't know. I don't think we will ever know the depth of really what happened. I don't think we will ever know who was fully right, who was fully wrong. I think there's wrong on both sides. I definitely think, if not true, Blake Lively making that claim is extremely messed up, is extremely wrong. I hope she learns from this. I hope that she heals from this. I hope she knows that she's good enough without the validation of other people. I hope she knows that she has gifts and talents and has the ability to be wonderful without needing to be in the A-list circles. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Blake Lively. That's my true therapist take on Blake Lively. Whether it's youngest child syndrome, whether it's extreme insecurity, whether it is possibly histrionic personality disorder, I genuinely don't know. Those three things stick out to me, though, when I watch Blake Lively as a therapist. And again, this is all outside looking in. This is all based on alleged information. This is just a random therapist take on what's happening right now in regards to Blake Lively. But I really do wish her healing and health moving forward. I'm interested to see the outcome of this. I'm interested to see if her and Ryan are able to make it through, because this is a lot to go through as a married couple. Again, whether she brought it on herself or whatever the case may be, any situation, this is a lot to go through. And there you have 4 young kids. I hope today's video was enjoyable. I hope you enjoyed my true therapist take on Blake Lively and what's going on with her and Justin Baldoni. I'm so thankful for you guys. And this is your friendly reminder, if you like all things mental health, therapy, pop culture, reality TV, then I would love for you to go ahead, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and turn on your notifications. That way you're notified when brand new videos are out and ready for you to enjoy. Until next time, guys.